Welcome back, everyone. There's a story that I found very fascinating because it reminded me of how many of us are attempting to become wealthy by any means necessary. There are no shortcuts. The money you make is a symbol of the value you create, the time, and the hard work. Today's story took place in 1994 in Amber, Iraq. In those days, the situation in Iraq was quite challenging. Means 4 days after Iraq's invasion of Kuwait, the United Nations Security Council imposed a comprehensive embargo on Iraq on the 6th of August 1990. The sanctions remained in place until Saddam Hussein's removal from power on the 22nd of May 2003, and it continued to be the part of it. There was a huge decline in employment. Salaries were low, and the overall financial difficulties caused worry for the future. Jabbar, who was a married man and had children, had no source of income and was living in a destitution. So he was looking for work. People here suggested that why don't you go to Baghdad, where construction workers, porters, and those seeking this type of employment sat in a specific place in a station. So he did. Now, while he was sitting, not just him, lots of other people were sitting, a Land Cruiser, a woman in a Land Cruiser arrived. And this was for them a major event because this young woman, who appeared to be wealthy based on her appearance, I would say, wanted workers. But unfortunately, she just wanted one. And she chose Jabbar. Maybe because she believed that he was tall and capable of handling hard labor. She requested that he enters the vehicle, and he did. And Jabbar, he was, of course, pleased that out of all these employees, he had been chosen. He sat behind the woman and they drove until they reached a massive mansion. They descended and she began guiding him immediately after that. She asked him to maintain the expansive garden by watering and organizing the entire outdoor area. He assumed that was all, and he began immediately. He realized that the only person in the house was an elderly woman who was sitting outside and enjoying the weather, I would say, while keeping an eye on Jabbar. When it was lunch time, the woman here, she summoned him and served him the best supper he had eaten in a very long time. He was extremely appreciative and grateful. On the other hand, the lady was occupied, but the elderly woman later provided him with bedding. It was the same routine for days. No one was around except, again, the woman. And the man was delighted because he didn't have much to do. And he was provided with food and other necessities, and he would be paid at the very end after he finishes his work. And that would be enough to send the money to his mother and his wife and his children. After approximately 2 weeks, the elderly woman decided to converse with Jabbar and learn more about him. She inquired about his background and his status, to which he replied that he was from a well known or respectable family and had traveled to Baghdad in quest of employment. This is how he arrived here. And he was a bachelor. Here we know that he lied, but the reason he lied was because he believed that he had responsibilities and feared being fired immediately. In this circumstance, where unemployment was at its peak, it was hard. I mean, I don't support the idea that he had lied, but he did. Now, due to this dire financial circumstances, he explained to her that where he was from and that he was seeking employment. Then she inquired, "Since you are youthful, why aren't you married?" He responded that he was once again not financially stable, and with some hesitation, maybe he said that, and he did lie again to the elderly woman. She inquired about, all of a sudden, that is, she inquired about his opinion of her daughter, Fajr. I mean, she said that this is my daughter, her name is Fajr, the one you saw before. And she continued, "Well, as you know, she is independent, and after her father's passing, he passed away. She assumed that responsibility for his wealth is her major priority and became busy caring for her mother and her father's vast business. She also rejected the notion of getting married due to this hectic schedule. Respectfully, the man asked, "What does this have to do with me?" The woman here explained that she fears her future spouse will be, he'll be greedy and he will abuse her or something or the other. And this refers to all the negative thoughts associated with marriage. But she stated that she had been attentively observing Jabbar for weeks. She did a test to see if he was loyal. Therefore, she would leave money, that is cash or her purse, near the place she used to sit and watch him through the window. He didn't know that she was doing so, but here Jabbar said or stated that I'm aware of the distinction between right and evil, or right or wrong, and I would never, if I see the money or anything right before my eyes, I would never touch it. This is how she knew that he was the best spouse for her daughter, and she would deserve a person who would be exactly like him. He was astonished, and she stated that my daughter does not need money or home, but rather a man who will stand by her side for the rest of her life and be loyal and a man of his word. Jabbar's thought at this time would have been, how lucky can a person get? And I'm leaving poverty for good, and that this is a dream come true. The woman here was just waiting for the permission from her daughter, and when she asked her or questioned her if she would marry this person or someone like him, she said, how would a marry a person who is extremely poor? And she didn't think that this would be the right thing to do, but the woman here, or the elderly woman, stated that he was extremely poor. She knows that, but she thought that he was superior to many wealthy males and is not greedy. The lady concurred with what her mother said, and then her mother went and said, "Congratulations, Jabbar." My daughter said yes. When she asked him, and then after that, of course, she asked him to bring his family members later on, as after the engagement or something. He was worried, but then he said, "Yes, I will, of course." And then he was afraid that, and wondered from the very start what would occur if they discovered that he was not a bachelor. Now he was afraid, but he reasoned. If he tells Fajr the truth, and if she comes to know him well, that he's a good person, maybe she'll forget all of that and ignore these things, and that's it. So he thought that he shouldn't be in such a hurry of telling that he was actually lying. Therefore, he intended to continue. Consequently, after their engagement, they said, "Okay, we are done. Now let's prepare for the wedding." And they said, "You will not spend a dime." They said, Fajr and her mother said, Jabbar, that you're not going to spend a single dime. The shopping here was extravagant, and it included everything. Means basically they were going back and forth purchasing suits, shoes, fragrances, and taking him to a salon. Jabbar was like right now a completely different person at this point. Fajr here repeatedly reminded him that he had to pay for absolutely nothing. At the very end, after this amazing shopping experience, she visited the finest jewelry shop in the city, and one of them had the most unique designs and precious stones. So she began experimenting with each piece individually. She knew what she wanted. She was wealthy and continued trying on different chains and necklaces and earrings. She then asked the employee to make a receipt for everything she had purchased, but the name on the receipt would be that of Jabbar, her fiancé, because she would never demonstrate that her future husband is unable or not capable to purchase her these things. And that would be like an insult. That is what she thought. And this was previously determined between them. Now she literally removed bundles of money from her purse after inquiring about the total amount. But what she had was insufficient, as the amount of money required was 10 million Iraqi dinars. She withheld the money and asked the man to wait while she retrieved the remaining money from the vehicle. Here, upon her departure, the employee questioned Jabbar, "Between us, who is paying for all of that?" Now Jabbar here responded with laughter, "Of course not me. She's the one. The store owner and Jabbar had been waiting now for an hour. They had this small conversation between them, and now they were waiting. And here he thought perhaps she had fainted or something else had happened to her because she's carrying all that money. Jabbar began to peer out of the window, but the car was parked so far that he could not see anything. He decided to check on her, but the shopkeeper or the owner would not allow him to depart. He stated that your wife is actually wearing all the gold, so you will not leave. This moment in his life was filled with confusion and distress, and he questioned whether or not she would return, or whether or not this would alter his life for the worse. After hours of waiting, the man, the owner, decided to shut the store. And here he contacted his other employees and began to request the payment for Jabbar. He said, "You have to pay." He was dumbfounded, questioning where would he find 10 million Iraqi dinars. They inquired about her fiance's name, and he responded, Fajr. So here they said, okay, Fajr what? He was astonished and provided an honest response. He said, I don't know. Jabbar said, I have no idea. She's Fajr, that's it. Jabbar recounted his entire life to them. Here the owner said that she set us up along with you. And how would anyone, or could anyone, be so stupid? They had to call the police. They called the police and claimed that he was the fraudster with a companion. Of course, he denied the allegations and claimed that he was also a victim. And he was. They brought the police to Fajr's home, but neither she or the elderly woman were there. There was no one. They went to the office, the rental office, where they stated that the house was available for a month's rent. They didn't take any information because they had been paid in cash. But he explained that since no one else was renting and they believed it was acceptable to do so upon what was happening at that time. It was obvious that Fajr and the woman were criminals, but Jabbar had to suffer the consequences despite being a victim as well. Jabbar had relegated to incarnation for a period of time. He served 5 years in prison and is now worse off financially than he was before. And that's it for today. Thank you for listening.